Imagine yourself being in a position in which your government, the people that are supposed to ensure your security and well-being as a citizen, are limiting your ability to provide and take care of your family properly. There are millions of people who are in this position and long the chance to have a life in America. Being so close to the border, there are thousands of immigrants that reside in New Mexico legally, yet still suffer from discrimination based on the way they look, their economic status, and their language. Living in a state such as New Mexico that is constituted by a large percentage of immigrants, you should inform yourself as to how this affects your own life. A lot of people argue that immigrants only affect the economy and the security of their communities in a negative way. But is that really so? After I have researched this topic extensively, and after being a member of the floating population that is in cases also part of said discrimination, I understand the importance of immigration in New Mexico. My purpose is to persuade my audience into being empathetic towards people that are only looking forward for an opportunity to better their lives. Today, I would like to go over the next 3 points with you. How immigrant families are victims of hatred and racism, the immigrant-friendly policies that help solve this problem, and how you can help to make the immigrants' voices heard. I would like to begin by stating the problem and why there is a need for a change. Immigrant families are victims of hatred because of their origin. Although nearly 1 in 10 residents in New Mexico is an immigrant and is residing legally in the state, and 1 in 9 residents is a native-born U.S. citizen that has at least one immigrant parent, according to Clark from American Immigration Council, they are often attacked for speaking a different language other than English, for their looks, and even for their economic status. That is due in part because of the U.S. long history of colonization and racism. According to Hauselman from We Can Still Build the Bridges That Make America Great, people who are not white have a large history of being treated differently in the United States. And even though there are laws that state that everyone has the same rights regardless of their looks, they still suffer from injustice. All this hatred is limiting the possibilities of immigrants to use their potential to obtain what other people already have. The discrimination that they are victims of often limits the positions or jobs that they are able to acquire. Not only that, but doing simple things like going to the grocery store or taking their kids to a park, they often receive hurtful comments and in some extreme cases might even get attacked. This needs to change because we all deserve to be treated equally regardless of our origin and be given a chance. Now that I have discussed the main problem and the need for a change, I will move on to my next point. The solution for this problem would be by promoting and supporting immigrant-friendly policies that make us a better community. In accordance to Mendez from New Mexico Immigrant Law Center, every year there is more people that are trying to expand these ideas so that we can protect the people in our state. This is because every year more and more people understand that immigrants are nothing but our co-workers, neighbors, classmates, etc. Several cities in New Mexico, such as Las Cruces and Albuquerque, among others, are supporting the so-called sanctuary policies. According to Vasquez, who wrote Advancing Equity in New Mexico, there are several goals that these policies are trying to achieve, such as to uphold the commitment of the civil rights that every family has. In other words, to make sure that they are treated equally according to the law, and to stop using local funds to try to separate families. This is because in many cases, the authorities might use these funds because they suspect that there's someone living in our state illegally. In many cases, they are mistaken and families have to go through unnecessary trauma. Despite the attempts of Trump appointee John C. Anderson to make cities in New Mexico accept federal immigration policies in order to receive federal funding, citizens resist to cooperate with them to keep the communities united. In fact, ever since Trump's election, communities in New Mexico have created and made stronger their policies in New Mexico. Clearly, people in our state understand what should really matter to us, that is, keeping our cities, our communities, and our families united. Now that I have discussed the solution to this problem, I will move on to my next point. The only way in which there can be put a stop to all this is by having your acceptance and support towards these families. Despite what people who are against immigrants might say, immigrants are also taxpayers, business owners, and hardworking people that contribute a lot to New Mexico. We need to understand that these families are not threatening our way of life, but instead they are just trying to make their own lives better, and this benefits everyone else's in the process. In fact, according to Clark, immigrants are vital to New Mexico's labor force, accounting for around 20%. For example, for the state's farmers, fishers, and foresters, immigrants constitute 37% and 18% in the construction industry as employees. Maybe you have a friend or a family member who is an immigrant, or maybe you're an immigrant yourself. Whatever the case may be, you're most likely interacting with immigrants on a daily basis. So why not help them to ensure their safety when all it takes is a little bit of support? By having empathy and supporting immigrants, New Mexico advances in equity, according to Martinez from ACLU from New Mexico. After talking to you about the problem, solution, and how you can personally help, I would like to go ahead and remind you that at the end, it is up to you to make a change. In conclusion, by understanding the circumstances in which immigrants find themselves in before and after immigrating, we can learn to support them to have a better outcome for everyone. The sanctuary policies that are already being supported by so many New Mexicans that have in fact lowered the crime rates in our state because it makes it easier for immigrants to come forward and report these events without the fear of being affected in any way negatively. Today, you learned about what immigrant families go through as victims of hatred and racism, the policies that are being and could be passed to better their situation, and everything that is in your hands to help. Immigrants contribute more to our society than what they could possibly harm. In fact, according to Clark, immigrants in New Mexico contribute over $1 billion in taxes every year. However, the point of all of this is that we must remember that the vast majority of people who live in New Mexico are descendants of immigrants. So why not help? Thank you.